Hello friends, TypeScript Tea Time here. Today we'll be using the Dungeonmans Mod Tools to actually follow this tutorial from the official Dungeonmans fandom wiki for modding to add monsters or a monster to the game. And that's the whole mod that we'll be running. And we see pretty much every part of the experience and how the mod tools help you. What I do expect is you watched the last video and ran the init command, effectively this command here. So what we need to have first of all is we need an amazing monster sprite, and I did download this one. All we need to do is copy it over into the textures directory where it belongs. There we go. So from here we need to create a sprite entity def, and apparently we need to put it into the sprite data folder. How very convenient that this is our sprite data folder. So what we want to write is something like looks like this. Actually, I didn't copy everything. That looks like this. And to do that, well, what we write instead is, well, the name is going to be the key of the object, and all of this stuff that's inside the entity definition is just going to be properties inside of the object. So this becomes basically this part. And to turn this actually into JSON, we have to use this syntax instead. So this will be monster sprites. And then we have a width of 80, which is identical over there. And we have x log 0, and we have y log 0. And this part here is going to be compiled into a file that looks like this, as you can see in just a minute. So I save it, auto formats. And now we go back into the README. Because in here we find the build command. On the next steps, you find this build command, which we grab, throw it in, we run it. It says it's completed. And now we have this dist directory over here. And we see in there's a sprites.txt, which has exactly this mold sprite turned into an entity definition that the Dungeonmans can understand, and exactly this is the part that we're going to distribute later to actually play it inside of the game. Why did I switch over to there? I don't know. Ah, right, I wanted to go over here. Yeah, so we turn this one into the JSON, and what you see here is we have autocompletion. We have also, if I turn this into a string, for example, we see, well, incorrect type, expected integer. We see documentation if you hover over it, or if I remove the thing again and write just the double quotes, it tells me, hey, you're missing the width property and suggesting it. And over here we're also seeing some squigglies saying missing property width. We can still compile. In fact, let's do that. We can still compile with the squigglies, and it's gonna do the thing. But obviously this is not what you typically want, except there's a bug inside the Dungeonmans Mod Tools. Then you might want this. But for now, let's revert things. We build again, and then yeah, we see everything is fine. We can also, by the way, while we're at it, define multiple in the same file. So if we just want number 2 here, and we have different properties like 97, and we build, we get actually 2 entity definitions in the same thing automatically. For now, we just want to have one. So that's our, so we have our texture, we have our sprite, What else do we need? We do need the definition of the monster. So we take all of this, and then we go into, I think it's actor data. Yeah, there it is. So we throw in, say, monsters.json. It will look similar to this eventually, but we always, in the Dungeonmans Mod Tools, we always start with an object. Inside of there, we give the entity a name. That's the part at the right after entity def. And then we open another object, and then things start. And you see all of this, all of these suggestions right at your fingertips by basically just writing double quotes. One hint here, always start with whatever it's called in the specific case, but class, class type, kind, because depending on that, you might get different suggestions for properties. So if you want to have a monster, start with adding the class and then saying monster, because now we get different results than if we, for example, take a townsman here. We only have a few options available because the townsman, for example, doesn't need, I don't know, damage types and whatnot. So from here on, we can just effectively just use the auto-completion. One unfortunate part is it doesn't really tell you which ones are required and which ones are not required. But it does tell you if you hover over here. So you could follow this one and then you define, okay, you need attack as of X. Let's say that one. You need, what else do we need? B block file entry. And that is typically just true. But for now, I'll just copy whatever is down there for the sake of, well, getting. I don't have to reinvent everything. And if we're clever, we might actually be able to do some magic. Like this to just be a bit quicker. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. So you don't have to wait so long. It worked quite the way I wanted it. Oops. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna cut this part. Actually, maybe not. This is part of the experience. So when you're converting these, you always have to put in the quotes around the property, a colon, and then the value, and then the comma. And now we can just probably do something like that, and then put in a colon there. That certainly helped. Got the colon right there. This one is a quote. Is a string. That one is a string. Name table. Also auto-completed here, or at least auto-suggested. Let's say. There can be more. You could write something like this. Oh, maybe in this case it doesn't. Knowledge. Base arm. Defeat armor. And for some of them, it does have already suggestions of how to use it. For others, it does not just yet, fortunately. But it's a work in progress. All right, this one's duplicated. Good? I think we're good. So one thing that is wrong in the wiki, you actually have to remove the stake data and the power. And then we turn it into an actual properly formatted thing. We're missing property coin type apparently, which is not in here. So that might be a bug. And now if we convert this one again, refresh, we see actor data is also here and it has been turned into a entity definition, which is neat. So some of these things are explained here again. For some, we already have it moved inside of the documentation moved inside of hover over, but for some there is not yet. So next part, we need to have encounters, and we need to put them into encounter data. Encounter data again, encounters.json. Start always with a JSON object. We always start with the key. So we have one mod mold, and then it's going to be a class of the encounter data, and this one does not get auto-completed. Sometimes you can actually hover over the key. We had to make it work retrospectively because the mod tools have been created effectively 10 years after the game was released. So some parts are like adjustments to the way Dungeonmans did things. And besides the class in here, every key should be a monster entity definition. The value should be either an integer number or a dice roll. For example, you have Modman's Mod Mode 1, as well as all the other stuff. So this would be Modman's Mod Mode 1. And because we can have multiple, we can also do some mod modes. And again, we provided the class as well as, and that is not being auto-completed because that's basically impossible to define up front. Modman's mod mode would be a D1, D4 plus 1. So it will at least have two, I think. One static, and then it rolls the dice 1d4. Not sure whether it's probably 1 based. So it's at least 2, up to 5. So that one's done, and if we compile again, refresh, we see the encounter data now in here. And then we also need to turn this one into table data, it says there. Table data. Tables.json, let's say. And again, we start always with an object. The key is going to be the entity definition. And then we throw in another object for more details. Here we again have documentation on the keys itself. I think you also have them right here. But we do have a link to the documentation, which is also neat. And such an encounter table apparently consists of 2 parts, one or more instructors defining which vanilla Dungeonmans table to add to or replace. And an additional dictionary style key value pair, with the key being a reference to an entity in encounter data, so the name of an entity, and the value, like effectively lottery tickets that you can draw from within this table. Not going to go into too many details on that part. So maybe we can throw those in here as well. Turn to those guys. Turn you into strings, put in a comma. Well, it's a bit annoying to have to turn these into JSON if we're just copying, but if you're writing them yourself, it's much easier. Here we do have some autocompletion, replace table and add to table. Again, this kind of dynamic stuff is impossible to encapsulate. That's why there's the documentation on here. So that's about it, and then we run it, and are we good? I think we're good. At this point we can run our mod, and to do so we actually have to distribute it. So we already built it just now. I can do it again. I'm running the build command, and now we take the my mod directory. Actually, that's also explained inside of the README. Next, copy the dist/mymod directory as is to the Dungeonmans mod folders, and that's on Windows now. C users, your name, app data, roaming, Dungeonmans mod content, mods. So because I'm on Ubuntu on a dual boot, we have to do a bit more magic here. Effectively, we take this mod, open the. I have to first mount my drive, and then we go inside of there. So this is under, as you can see here, app data, roaming, Dungeonmans mod content, and I'm actually accessing right now the Windows distribution, which is on the same drive. So you probably don't have to do that. Just copy it over somehow. You go into the mods content, and you can also already see I have a couple of mods inside of there, and then you paste it, and that's it. And now you can go over to Windows, start the game, and I'll be doing that in a few minutes.